Why has GTRevival been quiet for over 6 months? Well, for one, it's got a brand new name. It used to be called GTRevival, then GTRevival, and now Project Motor Racing. That's Project Motor Racing. It's also got a brand new publisher. So to find out more and to see how its development is progressing, we recently visited Silverstone, where the Straight 4 Studios development team was capturing sound and data from a Lister Storm, which so happened to be driven by former Stig Ben Collins. On the day, we spoke to Ian Bell, lead of Straight 4 Studios and Project Motor Racing, but previously lead and founder of Slightly Mad Studios. That's Project Cars, Fast and Furious game, there was a Test Drive Ferrari game, Need for Speed Shift, and under Blimey Games, the progenitors to this new project, the original GTR games on PC. So you'll hear from him very soon, but before then, it's Christian Ammann. He is the CEO of Giant Software. Giant Software, best known perhaps for the farming simulator games, and they are the new publisher and partner for Project Motor Racing. So we wanted to find out why the switch or expansion from farming into sim racing. So Chris, we're here at Silverstone. It's slightly different to a farming environment, but we'll touch upon that in a minute. First of all, you've got this amazing partnership between Straight 4 Studios and Giant Software. Just talk to me first, for those who may not know the farming simulator scene, what your background is.
Yes, so I'm co-founder and CEO of Giant Software. We create the farming simulator IP since 15 years, very successful game in the market. And since 2012, we self-publish our products. And we were also looking into publishing other titles. And that's where we found Straight 4 with the new sim racing title. Okay, so it's quite an interesting relationship there, because it seems from the outside looking in that your company has predominantly covered farming simulators as a priority, first of all. Is that correct? Yes, that's our main product at the moment, yeah.
And you said it was very successful. Could you give me an idea of how successful? I see a lot of players. I see esports competitions also, so there's a huge community, right?
Yes, it's a very big community. The latest installment was sold over 6 million copies, so it's quite a lot. And we're quite happy about this success. And of course, with the new publishing department we built, we are also eager to publish other titles.
So just to be clear, correct me if I'm wrong, you are developing Farming Simulator, you are publishing and marketing Farming Simulator, and is it your own technology as well? So all of it comes within the one company?
Yes, so our titles are built with the Giants engine, which we developed. It's over 15 years in development, and it's always continuously updated. It's all in-house technology, it's all built at Giants. And it's made for farming simulator, but also for simulation games. Yeah. We have a lot of really nice features. Modding is a big one, of course. But we also have esports, and there's of course also multiplayer and all these things that our modern games need.
Interesting. Those three things you mentioned there, esports, multiplayer, modding, they can be very popular in the sim racing space.
Yes, they're popular as well, of course. Yeah, and those are important pillars for a successful sim racing title.
So maybe from the, having heard the news today, the Giants and Straight 4 are partnering together. I thought, oh, that's unorthodox farming simulator and racing games. When you look at the type of games they are, ignoring the subject matter, there perhaps is a correlation between.
We totally see a correlation. If you look at the dedication of the community of the players, that's absolutely similar. There's very people that are so into that topic, and what we call it is that their hobby is our game, and that's something we also want to achieve with the new title.
Interesting. So it's quite a departure now to moving to publishing and partnering with a different developer. Talk me through, first of all, before we talk specifically about Straight 4 Studios and their new title, what does Giants want to achieve from partnering with other game studios?
Yes. So we built up the self-publishing department, which took many, many years, because it's not just the publishing department. We needed a marketing department. We needed people to do customer support. Also, publishers are usually responsible for quality assurance, so we built up quite a big quality assurance team to self-publish. In the end, we also had to build a physical distribution network to distribute those games worldwide, to put them into stores, because in the end, our games are not only sold digital. Quite a big part is still physical, and therefore you need a distribution network.
Yeah.
And also you need a warehouse to store those boxes and ship them around the world. So there's a lot of things that we did. And of course, if you only do that for one single title, that's in the end, the overhead costs are quite expensive. So it makes sense from a business standpoint to do multiple titles.
I see. Straightforward Studios is not just making on PC, they're also planning to make on consoles.
Exactly.
You've also got the relationship with the console manufacturers.
Yes.
So now other companies could potentially partner with you and get to market quicker.
Yes, so when we announced that we are a publisher and also could prove that what we said is really true, with the success of the titles we released into the market, to sales numbers, a lot of developers approached us.
Yeah.
A lot of smaller, bigger, but we were very picky because we wanted something that's really at the level of the quality level that we have with Farming Simulator.
Okay, so how does the relationship between yourselves and Straightforward Studios, how did that come about?
Yes, so somebody we knew introduced us, and they were looking for a publisher, and then, of course, with a lot of talks and negotiations, we came to a partnership.
So when this game is complete, it'll be via your distribution networks, your manufacture processes, and your marketing teams. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And I haven't mentioned the name yet, for good reason. So it used to be called GTRevival.
Yes.
It's now called Project Motor Racing. Could you tell me what the process is there?
Yes, so when the car partnership came together, we agreed that we will use a new name, and that was Project Motor Racing.
Project Motor Racing, okay. And the project part reminds me of some of the older games some of the team have been involved with.
Exactly. I think it's nice to have this kind of hook to the past, which of course is important. It's their legacy, so I think it's
cool. So, final question: are you looking forward to being part of the sim racing community? Because there is crossover between sim farming and sim racing, I suspect. But also it's a highly competitive market with people who have to be competitive at home as well. And I've seen earlier you were on track with Ben Collins, so has that given you a taste now of what this market could be?
Yes, it's an interesting market. It's a very established market, of course, and we are here to compete, and that's our goal. And so, of course, it will be tough, but that's what we want to challenge. So we'll see.
Well, you've been very successful with farming simulators. Now let's see what it's going to be like with racing simulators, and we hope to find out more about the game soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Christian, for his time. I'm sure we'll find out more about Giant's involvement in the near future. Here's hoping. Certainly an interesting diversification of their portfolio. So now it is the aforementioned Ian Bell, and here we touch upon how the project is progressing, which cars are chosen for it, why the change of publisher, why the change of name, and there's a little bit of Madbox Project Cars 3 history in there as well. This was a very quick interview. Beforehand, I wasn't aware if we were interviewing Ian at all, so I'm sure there could be more questions that we could ask, but we'll certainly do that again when the opportunity arises as Project Motor Racing, not GTRevival or GTRevival, advances. So, without further ado, here's Ian. So, Ian Bell, a pleasure to meet for the first time. Hello, yes,
nice
thank you.
To be here in this auspicious area of the pits.
Yes.
Silverstone.
On the one side, there's a sink, which is not very glamorous, but on the other side, there's a Lister Storm, which is incredible.
There is a Lister Storm. Great car.
Amazing car. And that's obviously been like almost like a totem for the project so far, right? Because
it's a totem for the modern project, but it's also the first car we built in the first game we built.
Exactly.
GTR.
Way back when?
Way back, we started work on it 23 years ago.
Wow, okay.
So we shipped that 21 years ago. And Lister Storm was our first car that we modelled up and used as a test mule. there was reasons for it. We knew we had a lot of mid-engine cars we were going to pull in, so we get plenty of testing on that. But to have a front mid-engine was quite rare.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's so beautiful. It's so different.
Yeah.
It's iconic, and it's one that we decided we're going to put on the box for the new game.
It's an underdog story, I think. Everyone loves an underdog. Well, I do, certainly do. And to go up against those factory machines of Ferrari, Aston Martin, and they made it themselves, fantastic. But I digress.
Well, it works for us as well, the underdog story.
Well, I was going to try and somehow segue in there, but I didn't manage it successfully.
Yeah. I'm here for you, Tom.
Yeah, so, well, obviously we're in a market with long-established sim racing platforms out there, okay? And soon, with your company, Straight4, in partnership with Giant Software, there will be a new project. And it's called Project Motor Racing. No longer called GTRevival or GTRevival.
Yes, it is.
And that's what we're here to talk about today at Silverstone. So, there's a million and one things we could ask, but I'd just like to start with, first of all, why is now the right time for you to get back in this industry and start a new project?
You know, the truth is I never really left.
Okay.
I had a period where I was garden leaved and paid for it. So
this was with EA?
With Electronic Arts, yes. So as part of the package that I negotiated to leave, I agreed not to do any work on simulations for a year. So yeah, I enjoyed that year. That was good fun. Did some other things, set up some other businesses, got a few interesting projects going. And then behind the scenes was just watching the calendar for the date.
Okay.
Because I knew EA would get me. Okay. I know they'd love to get me. So I thought if I do any work and it comes out and there's proof of it, you know, I'm potentially in breach, and yeah. So I didn't risk it. So I waited until the day, and the day after I called everyone that I had worked with for 20 years, the guys I called my core team, and every single one of them, with the exception of 2, and we're talking about 75 people.
Yeah.
They joined.
Yeah.
And they're all on board. So all of a sudden I had this huge pay, huge monthly salary bill and no income. So I thought, well, I better find some partners. So I paid the team for the first year out of my own pocket, and they worked really hard. We got a ton of assets, ton of work done, ton of prep, ton of pre-production. And then we started on the Unreal Engine, assuming if we're plugging in our own physics, artificial intelligence, input, output, then it's going to be fine. Well, we couldn't get 120 frames per second, no matter what we did. It just wasn't working with VR. So for that reason, we decided to make a change. Yeah.
So the change is, obviously, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's your own physics?
Yes.
Yeah. From scratch?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yep.
We're not allowed to use anything we've used before.
Okay.
Now, I will state that the chap who's building it is the same chap who built the last 2 engines.
Okay, right.
Physics engines. When I say chap, there's a team.
Yeah.
There's a large team underneath Mr. Kevin. You can't see off camera here.
One of them might be watching us right now.
Most of the physics team are really good. We got about 5 people in there working full time.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job. But AJ is running the core of what he has done before, but he hasn't started with anything he's used before. So we got a new engine. It's called Hadron. And
what was it called, sorry?
It's Hadron.
Hadron. Okay.
As in the collider.
Yes, of course.
You know, the Higgs boson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Discovery. So it's the Hadron. The Hadron engine is basically taking from the first line of code and writing it again.
Yeah.
We had a great engine. It was very, very good, very strong, very complex. But it required 2 full cores of a CPU just to operate at a reasonable acuity, a reasonable tick rate for the tires, and it was a little bit too much overhead. So we decided to go back and make things more efficient, go back to first principles, use the original data that we had in place and new data that we brought on board, and write an engine from scratch.
This is new from the ground up.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, yes, you've released lots of lovely looking pictures on the internet, Ian, of the game in Unreal Engine, but it won't. That's changed now.
It has.
So there'll be a new graphics engine which we don't know yet, and I'm sure you'll reveal at a later date.
We will indeed, as soon as we can.
But let's just talk about maybe then the development process so far. I think, to quote one of your posts on X, I would call it Twitter, but formerly X, you said we're aiming towards the end of 2024. Is that still a realistic target? Obviously, it wasn't a date; it was a name anyway. But
yeah, it was a name. It was a name when we didn't have to change engines.
Exactly, that's the big thing. Right?
Changing engines is huge. We've had to plug everything back into the new engine and then work it to the way we want it in terms of the rendering. We're taking our time to do the product right.
No, that makes sense.
We're making sure with something we'll be proud of.
Yeah.
That is the Project Car 4 that we always wanted. Project Cars 4 was going to be hardcore simulation, real but really good game.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do with the new one.
Okay. And now it's called Project Motor Racing. Formerly it was GTRevival, then GTRevival.
Yep.
Is the emphasis of the vehicles in the game still GTs primarily?
Okay, so we have broadened the vehicle roster.
Okay.
So the term GT doesn't really fit. It fits a subsection of the game. But in terms of the assets, we have now much broader assets. Cars from different classes that you couldn't call GT by any means. And for that reason, we thought a broader name would be useful. And also our new partners, who we can't mention, their terminology fits with our new terminology as well.
Okay.
To an extent.
So it makes sense from a publishing point of view as well.
Yep.
Okay. So then, I mean, it's all been said on the internet before, but I will just double cross. So we're expecting a racing game that is predominantly a simulation. So when I drive it, it's more on the serious side than the accessible side, or not? Where do you think it sits?
It's going to be real. But so reality is dictating everything that we do, and we're aiming for realism. Yeah. And whether that realism doesn't correlate necessarily perfectly with what people expect a game to feel. Okay. If a game is real, we don't care. We're doing something that's real. So we want the lap times to be absolutely bang on, matching the real lap times. Yeah. We want the cars to be perfect. We want the circuits to be perfect in terms of micro bumps, camber, caster, crests, dips, everything. We want it all in there. We want the curb. We want the curb topology to be identical to the real curb topology. We want the difficulty of drive to be as difficult as it is in reality. And in reality, it's easy up to 95%.
Okay.
Above 95%, that separates the real race drivers. So anyone can drive at 95 and you'll still get a good game. But those 5%, that little edge there to take you up to 100, that's where the real superstars and as we call them, aliens. That's where they reside.
Okay.
And we'll have everything that they would want, as well as the masses.
Yeah. So and obviously this project seems like it's still away. Awful sentence, but we'll roll with it. But whenever we talk about a new title that's coming out, and you've posted on social media about this as well, people always want to ask a certain set of questions in sim racing, right? So VR support, triple screens, and consoles. I believe they're all on the roadmap. Is that fair to say?
Everyone. I can say yes to every one of those.
Okay, fantastic.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's essential for us. Yeah. We can't do less than what we did in Project Cars 2. Yeah. And with this game, we're looking at the work we all did in Project Cars 2 and taking it through the stratosphere as far as we can with new technology and the power of the new machines. Okay,
that's cool. One of the things I'd like to ask, and slightly jumping around a bit here, is the team. You mentioned the team a lot. You've hired 70-odd people, you mentioned, and I think it's been published on the internet. Some of them are people you've known in the past. So could you just run me through some of the staff people maybe know who are working on the project? Have they come from the GTR days or Project Car days?
Yeah, I don't want to mention names because I'll invariably leave one or two core people out. But
there's a lineage there, a direct lineage.
We go back. We go back to the work that we did in 2002. We have there were only 18 guys there. We have about 10 of them still with us.
Yeah.
If you take our next games, next one or two games in the early 2000s, we got pretty much 80-90% of them, and they're still here. So, I do have a reputation for being a nightmare, but they're sticking with me. So I'll take that.
Okay.
And I'll take the abuse online because I do like ribbing people. I do like pulling their lead a little bit and getting a bit of an up from them. That's my thing. I have fun with that. It's an Irish thing. We all do it. It's called taking the piss. Irish people do it. We get fun from it, and anyone who can't laugh at themselves, we decide, no, okay, we'll set you aside.
So if I say something that you disagree with in the future, I know not to, it's a bit of a jibe. And
I'll laugh with it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't take anything too seriously.
Okay. Well, me neither, really. Although I'm trying to be serious and formal in this interview.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
of course. So we must ask about the legacy that your previous games that you've worked on have in the industry, and what I mean maybe is, where do you see sim racing, as I would call it, as an industry, or racing video games right now? What's your general opinion on where the market sits?
I think it's become very interesting. If you look at the market 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 7 years ago, you were seeing one great Formula One game, one great NASCAR game, and they were license-based, and on the PC, one or two simulators. Yep. Now you've got about 8, 9 simulations. The sim market is going the way of the first-person shooter market. We're up to about 34% in terms of coverage as a part of the pie of the whole industry. It's pretty huge. So racing games have become massive. They're much bigger than they were before, and I think the more accessible sim racers that allowed people easy entry, that is, and to blow our own trumpets, sims that we feel are hardcore and realistic, but are also available on consoles.
Yep.
So people can just plug and play, hit a button, and away they go, and start racing. I think those are the crossover sims. And before you didn't have that, because Forza was Microsoft only, Gran Turismo was Sony only, and we were the first to just really hit it out of the park and go in as a competitor to those guys. We didn't sell their units, but then again, we didn't get bundle deals and things like that. So that's where they get their sales units from, plus tons of marketing, which we never had that amount of cash behind our marketing. Maybe with Electronic Arts, actually, we did. And we sold 8.5 million copies of Need for Speed Shift.
Yeah.
So 8.5 million was pretty good, and it was reviewed much better than the previous 3 or 4 Need for Speeds. So we were happy with that. That was a good win. Would have been nice to get paid for it, but yeah. Apart from that, it was good fun.
And it had an obscure Italian track, Enna Pergusa, which I love.
It had Enna Pergusa. Yeah, let's run around this lake in the middle of nowhere with a few chicanes.
Love it.
It's basically a loop around a lake with a couple of chicanes.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And I grew up watching the Super Racing Weekend, which had Listerstorm competing around that circuit, and that was quite evocative for me.
Yeah. Enna Pergusa gave us nightmares, by the way.
Yes.
We didn't have the technology to cause the tires on impact to damage the car.
Right, okay.
It was either a brick wall or nothing.
Right.
Because we didn't have like Havoc style physics or PhysX style physics in the earlier games. So all we could do was try to either make a big bump in the chicane where it would upset your car.
Right.
But you could still rip over it, or put some brick walls in there. And that's where in the end we just stuck.
I know, and some of the AI unfortunately would drive into the brick walls when you're racing against them. But I still love playing the track. So obviously it's a busy day. I'm sure you want to go out and see some Formula 1 cars, and Adrian Newey's around.
I got my Ferrari here. I'm going to be taking it a run. I'm going to take Ben Collins.
Nice.
I'm going to take him a run. Well, he's going to take me first and pretend to give me some advice, but he's put on so much weight. Where is he?
He's around somewhere.
I'm going to beat him.
Oh, well,
I'll beat his lap time.
Okay, well, I'll be watching. We'll see.
Oh, hold on. We're both in the car. And both. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
It's going to be evens.
Nothing like confidence there.
No, it's literally bullshit. I have no chance. This guy can drive.
Oh, yeah.
He's in a different planet. He overheats the... Look, these are carbon ceramic Ferrari discs.
This is in your F8
and race brakes.
Yep.
And he overheated them. He had to come into the pits and roll the car to cool the brakes.
I smelled them as well.
Yeah. He's burned my pads. There's probably no.
You're gonna have to buy some more.
There'll be no. I'll come into maggots, and there'll be no brakes. Yeah. And I'll be off somewhere before Hanger Straight.
Right. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
I'll be lying somewhere in Beckett's, upside down.
Hopefully not, because you've got a video game to finish.
Got a video game to finish.
Yes. Before we finish, I'd like to ask you a couple of quick-fire questions that are really random. Some about the past, some about the present. What happened to the Mad Box?
A couple of Chinese investors pulled out. Things started getting a little bit iffy. We were offered 100 million, and we didn't have the funds for the graphics chip.
Yeah.
And we needed to come up with that 100 million to get rolling. And we thought we'd pull out at that stage.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Do you think Project Cars 3 would have been better suited to a different name? Was there a time where it had a different name, like a subtitle?
There was a time when it had a different name, and
what was it?
I lobbied for a different name.
Okay, yeah.
It was called Project Cars Sideways.
Sideways. Okay.
And that would evoke the notion that you're going off at a tangent.
Yes.
That you're not doing the same sort of game, i.e. Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
This is Project Cars Sideways, and I was overruled. Because the investors said we need a Project Cars 3.
Interesting.
And they named it against my wishes. So, look, the chaps that did it, they know who they are. I don't blame them. We're still good friends.
Okay.
But they made a mistake.
Okay. And final question from the left field. Am I correct in thinking you own a steakhouse in Germany? And if
I
so,
own a steakhouse in Germany.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's called Bell's Steakhouse.
Yes, I've seen it.
It's very interestingly named. It's just outside Munich and Aschheim, 220-seater. It's ripping it, making a fortune from it. It's being run by my good friend, guy called Tom. I won't give his second name in case he doesn't want it out. But he's doing great work. And the Germans, apart from the taxes, they're so good. They're so good in every job.
Okay.
They're just the best engineers. You know, apart from the list, they make great cars. I've got Porsches. So do the Italians. There's more passion in the Italian cars.
Yep.
But there's more efficiency of engineering.
Yep.
In the German cars, and I love them.
Okay.
And I drove up here in my Porsche because I wouldn't trust the Ferrari.
Okay, interesting. So, when we're next in Germany for a gaming event, we'll hopefully have a steak or a burger.
A steakhouse.
Yeah.
You know, I said on Twitter, the first 10 people that arrive and give the code GTRevival or GTRevival will get a free meal. That went in about 3 days.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many race sim fans are going by.
Right. Okay.
But that was it. That was it up in 3 days. But I let a few more have it.
Yeah.
So we decided to keep it rolling.
Okay.
So until Tom gets fed
Right.
up.
You'll have to change the code now because it's Project Motor Racing.
Yeah, indeed. It's Project Motor Racing. So when this comes out, people can then come and use the Project Motor Racing.
Right.
And another 10 free meals.
Well, thank you very much for listening on the audio platforms or watching on YouTube. Please let us know in the YouTube comments what you'd like to see from Project Motor Racing. There might be opportunities for us in the coming months to actually see the game or maybe try it or ask further questions. We're not entirely sure, but certainly this is just the beginning and not the end. So questions in the YouTube comments will be really helpful, and then when the opportunity arises, we'll ask some more. All right, thanks very much.